Good morning. Welcome to this week's Family Ministry Moment. And here I am outside once again, enjoying the air, enjoying the breeze, hearing the birds, listening to the airplanes, and I'm enjoying it. I do love life in real life, but there's also another life that we live. We live a life online. I know that was a corny transition, but I was trying to think about how I could talk about what it's like living online. And I was thinking, man, how real it is to live in person, but sometimes how immersive and addictive it can be to live online. I have a pretty big presence on the internet. I do talk a lot with my friends there. I'm on message boards and post videos every once in a while, and I'm on different group chats, and I'm all kinds of different social media. I have a pretty good presence online. I'm sure many of you do too. Some of you probably do it for work and other things. And I talk to students all the time. They spend a lot of their times online. Did you know the recent statistics have shown that most students spend more than 10 hours on media a day? Think about that, 10 hours. They're in school for about 8 of those. So that means they're doing it while they're in school too. They spend a lot of their lives connected through lots of different people online. And this is one of the most connected generations ever, right? These kids know what's happening in their worlds in an instant. And not just like what happened next door, but also what happened in the country next door and the continent next door. People know what's going on all of the time. We live completely separate lives in person and online. But we have to be careful about who we are online. Now, and all those different things that I mentioned I do online, I could pretend to be different people. I could be someone that I'm not because maybe I want to pretend. Maybe I want a group of people to think I'm somebody different. I could, but is that really me being me and who I am? Am I being honest with myself? No, maybe I want to play a character. That's one thing. Or maybe I just feel like being somebody different online. And I know a lot of folks who do that. I've met folks in person who I then talk to online, and they pretend to be different when they're amongst a different group of people. But is that really us being authentic? I don't really think so. Now, I could look at myself when I was younger, and I used to do things like that. And it feels a little dishonest when I think about it now. But I don't do that anymore. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying that I don't catch myself being a little more bold than I should be, being a little more brazen than I probably could have been. And some of you know that I've taken a break off the internet for a while. And, it's kind of nice. Because I had a conversation with a couple friends over the last just couple of weeks, and they're saying, "Oh, hey, we were on vacation, this week, and we didn't get to catch up. But did you see my pictures that I posted and this and that?" And I was like, "Actually, no, I didn't." And they're like, "Oh," and so then we got in a conversation, asked them where they went and what they saw, and we got to talking about their stuff, and that was so much better than me just seeing their pictures because I got to actually find out more than I think I would have ever found out, but just quickly looking at some pictures. And that was really cool. And I would have never had that conversation if I was still on the internet. So I'm not to say that I'm not. I'm not as engaged as I used to be. And it's going to be not a nice break for me. But it may not be an option for all people. And so my encouragement to you is to remember that when we're online, we need to remember to clothe ourselves with compassion and kindness. There's a scripture in Colossians. The scripture we're looking at today comes from the book of Colossians. If you don't know where that is in the New Testament, in the middle of the letters here, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians. We're at Colossians. We're going to look at chapter 3. We're going to go to verse 12. Verse 12 reads, "As God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience. Bear with one another, and if anyone has a complaint against another, forgive each other, just as the Lord has forgiven you. So you also must forgive. Above all, clothe yourselves with love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony." Now, the writer in the book of Colossians may not have recognized definitely didn't know that we were going to live 2 separate lives when it came to modern people. They didn't know that we were going to be living lives in person, seeing people in the flesh, and then online, seeing and getting to know people digitally. They had no idea what that looked like. But let's be real. We've all been living different fragmented lives forever. Sometimes we're one person at home, another person at work, another person with our friends. We've all made an act of constantly living different personas and different lives. Now, that's understandable. I know lots of students who are one person in youth group and one person at home with their families and a completely different person at school. And when I bump into them sometimes at their schools, they're a little shocked to see me outside of church and in their schools, because in that moment they recognize, wait, I'm supposed to be church here too? And I think that's the key thing, because that writer was writing, we need to make sure we're clothed with compassion and forgiveness and love at all times. This wasn't a saying to say, hey, just do this some of the times or just with some of the people. It's how we're supposed to live all of the time in all of the places that we live. So whether you're living at home or living at work, or if you're a student, the question isn't where you're living, it's how you're living. Are you living with compassion? Are you being forgiving of the people around you? Are you being accepting? Are you kind of understanding and empathetic to who they are? Is that something that you do as Christ calls us to do? Now, as we as adults talk to our students and our young people about their presences online, I want to remind you that for some of our young folks, this is a really big core part of their identity. It may not be a part for a lot of us adults. For some of us it is, but it's not for the most part. But for a lot of our students it is. And that's an okay thing. This is something that they've lived with forever. And we need to remember our role as their mentors and the folks who guide them. Our role is to help them understand how to live in this duality, to live in two separate places at once and still be our authentic selves. You know, God has created us to be our authentic selves. He loves us for who we are. And so we need to remember to be able to be that person in person and online. So you're wondering, why am I talking about this? Well, I know. I just started letting my daughter get online some more ways. She's been talking via text and group chats with friends on this new phone that we gave her. It's one of our old hand-me-downs. We let her use it at home in certain spaces. And she's starting to talk online. And I started to think through, man, how do I want to help her lead an online life? And, you know, I wish I would have had that growing up. And my parents didn't know anything about that when I was growing up. But I do. And I want to be able to encourage my child to do that. And so my encouragement to you as parents and aunts, uncles, and grandpas is, are you talking to young people in your life about the lives that they live online? Are you talking to them about the lives that you live online? And if your kids saw you online, what would they think about you? What perception would they take about you? These are things we should be thinking through. You know, when I post online, I do think about what's going to happen when a student sees what I'm posting online. And sometimes I'm embarrassed about the stuff I posted when I was younger. I wish I could give my younger self some advice, but I can't do that. And the internet doesn't forget. Now all I can do is say, that was me before I learned better. But there's a truth to that. There's an honesty to that. So my encouragement to you is, remember, we're still in this together. Even if we're doing community in person, we're still doing community online together. And I'm friends with some of y'all on different social medias, and we will connect with each other. But let's remember, when we're having community, we do it in a faithful way, in an honest way. The way that the writer in Colossians told us. Let's be honest, let's be faithful, let's love each other. And I hope we can do that together at church on Sunday. It'd be awesome to catch y'all at 9 o'clock or the 11:15 service. And we're rounding up our confirmation sessions with our students. So hopefully I can catch all y'all at 4 o'clock and the mentors as well for our confirmation sessions. Totally excited for that as we're getting ready to celebrate them at Easter. Speaking of Easter, we do have our Easter celebration coming up on Easter Sunday, April 20th. Could use some Easter eggs for anybody who's bringing them by. Could use them, could stuff them. So if you guys could bring them on over this Sunday at church, that would be awesome. So this is Manu. Hope to catch you this Sunday.